After all this time, we got the pleasure of getting to interview Christopher Goodman, an industry professional with decades of amazing work under his belt, as well as being the creator of the original SCP-106 image. Hopefully this video helps to answer any questions anybody may have, as well as just be a great insight for anyone curious at an industry professional in the horror space. I hope you all enjoy, and again, thanks to Christopher Goodman for being so nice and taking the time to talk to us. Links to him will be in the description, so please check him out and send him some love. In your email, when talking about your inspiration for the image, you're quoted as saying, "So I painted this weird image on a few pieces of reclaimed board to make it look like it had just been discovered in a derelict building, almost like it was painted by a madman or an occult artist living on the outskirts of society," was I
Yeah,
believe the words that you used. That
yeah,
made me think of Pickman's model, the Lovecraft story. Would that be a kind of an inspiration for the
yeah,
image?
definitely. I did an my entire degree show was kind of based around Pickman's model in some way. It was always one of my favorite H.P. Lovecraft stories because it dealt with an artist who had some sort of connection to the supernatural in some way. He wasn't supernatural himself, but he had this sort of like weird um yeah, sort of like relationship, this sort of like transactional relationship with something incredibly, inhuman and stuff. And I like that kind of that weird mixture of someone seemingly every day and the things. So I just wanted to kind of create like a false narrative basically around the work that I was doing. So I didn't think it was very interesting, just me, essentially. I didn't, just me being an artist, painting pictures or drawing pictures and stuff. And that's kind of what makes what happened to the image later and the stories that came around it so fitting and so fun for me is that, it kind of created its own Pickman's model, like story, as it sort of like lived there on the internet without any backstory. Just the lack of me just kind of made it better, in a way. The lack of me sort of like, oh, that's me, that's my painting or whatever. And but yeah, long story short, Pickman's model certainly was an influence on lots of the stuff that I did back then.
That's a, it is very interesting how that it has really taken on a life of its own, completely separate.
Yeah, it was bewildering to to just to sort of like slowly be like, oh, there's this page. The page itself, I was first directed to, didn't have my image on it. Of course, it had the new image on it, which is actually a really cool image. I like it, but I didn't actually immediately because the some of the elements that were specific to my painting weren't on it. So I just thought someone had made a mistake. At first when I saw that page, like it's clearly not the same image. Just people have gotten confused. So like but then obviously I was directed more. Then I just saw YouTube videos, bang with my which was one which was mainly yours, of course. That and then other people have, you know, one guy who also did SCP videos. He contacted me, and his video got about like 1.7 million hits, and that was just about the character in general. But at the end, he talks about where the image came from and stuff like that. Nobody at that time sort of like knew where it came from and stuff. And then it pops up my image, and then I see in like indie video games, there's like a little picture of my painting had been like put into like the SCP Foundation corridors and stuff like that. So it's popping up all over the place. I've literally, although it's gotten stuck in customs, I've ordered a SCP-106 plushie that got
Ah,
produced by some crowd because I think if you do a piece of art 20 years ago and you discover there's a plushie of it, you have to own that plushie. You have to. I had to shell out my own cash, my own money for someone who made money off a plushie based on my artwork. That's
Real
life,
life
you know.
works.
No, so I had to shell out for that, but it's all right. But yes, that was I don't know where I even started this conversation. I have a tendency to go off on one, but yeah,
no, that's
uh,
fine.
that was quite weird.
Uh, Arfi, if you have anything you'd
Yeah,
like to
I think I had one pre-typed out, but there's this SCP called 173, and essentially it's like a statue. And when they reached out to the artist was actually really had a bit of an opposite reaction to you. He was very disappointed that people had used this artwork and attached a different story to it because he
Right, okay. Did the artist want money? Is that the thing, or they just didn't like how it was used?
I don't they let the SCP Foundation use it under the terms and conditions that they don't monetize it.
Okay.
Um, so not really. I'd imagine that may have been part of it, but I can't really say yes or no to that.
Yeah,
I
I mean,
believe it was more of an artistic opposition. Like he had a story he wanted to tell with the image, and
Mhm.
it would have been taken and used in this different context that was a lot
right.
different than what he wanted.
Sure, sure. Yeah, I more of an art piece in its own right. I mean, yeah, when I did, it's kind of my image has been out there now. It's gone out there. I suppose I could sort of like try to sort of like extract something from someone about it, but I don't. I think I'd rather go the other way and then now try to I don't know. I mean, I don't know how whether SCP is how much of a thing SCP still is now and how many fans are still out there and whether they'd be interested in any new images of SCP 106 that I have. But if I want to kind of in terms of my creative vision for it, it was part of a larger body of work that I did, and I put it on the internet. I put it out there. So, you put something out there and, it could be potentially used and stuff. And it's probably in general, it's probably going to be more useful and better for me that it did have that. Otherwise, nothing would have happened with it, I suppose. I've gone to have my career and stuff. And then that would be it. It would just be like a footnote for me, but now I've got all this extra stuff and this, you know, mini niche fan base, to interact with. I think that's kind of more interesting and more useful for me than the nothing really that I'd done with it, up until that time. So I don't know whether I can really complain, but that makes sense.
Fair. Uh,
Cool. Yeah.
Has that sort of
something
answered that question? I don't know if I did. It was more just again another waffle. But
No, that's I mean that's what we're after. Like
just a
I
waffle.
guess my question was more going to be around like, do you have any concerns about sort of releasing it under a Creative Commons license? I believe I don't know his actual name, but he goes as Dr. Man on the subreddit reached out about.
Yeah, someone's spoken to me about it. I double check with it.
Yeah,
The only I'm not a guy replied, messaged me about. I think he's connected to the wiki itself, and he wants to put the
yeah,
image
yeah,
back. And in general, I think I'm open and happy with that. I want to be able to just feel that if I do anything more with the image myself, that I have that. He seemed to say that it's okay. I'm just double
yeah,
checking that just out of sheer crossing the
yeah,
T's and dotting the
yeah, of
I's.
course,
So no,
of
there's
course.
no like I've not got back to him yet, but only because I'm just slowly just double checking that that's okay. Because now that I've seen that this thing is out there, it would be nice for me to have a project of my own and doing some because I've got a few ideas of how I might, release some images of the original full image, for people to maybe
Yeah,
purchase. And obviously, I've got an experience as I've worked in the makeup effects, creature effects industry for about almost 13 years now. So I was thinking I might make like um 3D models of it coming out of the artwork and sculpt that myself and maybe try and release those stuff like that
hmm,
that I just think maybe I won't get to or hopefully I will. And I just want to make sure that I'm cool to do that, and have the original out there and that Creative Commons license, whatever it is, which I think will be fine. So that's the
yeah.
only there's no like delay. I'm not like stalling or anything like that. I'm just waiting for just some feedback of someone. But It's nothing serious.
Yeah, that completely makes sense. And I think the community would really appreciate that. Like,
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean that's part of it as well, you know. I've discovered that there's this new community out there, not even new, like old community that's new to me, that's showing an interest in my work without me being around, and I don't want to show up and then immediately be some sort of massive killjoy, you know. I don't. I think that wouldn't sort of like endear me particularly to it, and especially as you know there's more that I could potentially do. So, you know, I'm aware of that, and I'm aware that people would like the image back on back on the site.
yeah, sweet. Sweet. No, that's definitely the sort of answer we were hoping to hear from that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah. We'll see. Yeah, to see what I see, see what can be done.
I will say you mentioned using it, making your own things out of it, making your like short films, makeup effects things, and whether
Mm,
people would want it. The answer is 100% yes. People would love to see more of anything like that from people crave more creative works from SCP because since it's Creative Commons, most it's like Hollywood won't pick it up because it's too hard to kind of make money off unless you
right.
own the thing itself, sort of. So people take what they can get with it completely. So they would love to see something like that from you if you did go down that avenue.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. No, I'll see what I can do. I think if you know if there was just the one image was Creative Commons and other things, you know, just that one picture, then you know, yeah, I think it's something that you know, would be interesting and useful to me, you know, to sort of like to do. So I will that's something that I'm aware of, and I'll look into it and see what I can yeah, see what I can do about it.
Just saying, I would pay good money for high quality scans in like a printed format. I would pay good money for that.
Yeah, well, that's
I don't think I'm
oh,
the only
excuse me.
one.
That's something that I need to do sort of first. Basically, I need to take a photograph, nice quality photographs of it. I am thinking they're just ideas that I've got in my mind, but I was thinking I might 3D scan the original wood that it's on, and sometimes the image kind of comes through a little bit. And I was thinking about maybe doing a sculpt of it coming through the wood because the whole concept kind of even though it wasn't in my original idea that he was coming out of the wood,
Mm.
I just painted it on the wood. You know, it wasn't. That was kind of an extrapolation. I might do something along those kind of lines. You know, where I'm sort of taking what was true to the image originally and you know exaggerating it and then
Yeah,
bring it
for
out.
sure.
Just sculpting it with more of the experience that I've got now, basically.
Hmm.
Uh,
Yeah,
That's
sweet.
my idea.
i so in our emails, there was a part where you mentioned your friend who we've spoke to on the Discord,
Oh yeah,
that you gave the image to, or the
yes,
original piece.
yeah, Ed,
You
yeah.
said that he still has it, but otherwise you likely would have thrown it away.
Mm,
Obviously, we're glad that you didn't do that,
yeah.
but I'm curious as to your reason for saying that you would have thrown it away. Is it purely just because you have a lot of art over the years and it's just taking up space, or did you have any
Yeah,
sort of dislike for
just
it,
what?
maybe?
No, there was no dislike for it. There was nothing like that. It was just what I was like back then. I just wasn't very good at keeping track of things. Although I have kept track of things, some things, you know, that are easier. I've got like basically like a box that I call the memory box, which is just stuff that I've managed to keep at small scale. And I've got a a big A0 or A1, I forget, portfolio, which has got pencil sketches, paintings back from my school days up until the end of uni. Um, that era, basically. That so I've kept all that, but there was just something about that. It was just painting on chunks of wood. I just think, you know, I just don't think I would. I think I would have chucked it out as I was going from place to place. The only reason why I think he kept it is that it was kept in storage at his sister's or something like that, and they had loads of space, whereas I had a small little terrace house at home, no, not a lot of space there, and I went straight from Brighton University, where I made it, straight to London to a live workspace, uh, living a somewhat arty bohemian East London lifestyle where I just can't imagine it being chucked away. But again, definitely wasn't. I was always. I think I always liked that image. I think I always liked it. And but I didn't. I ended up not quite going in that direction. Of keep doing more of them. I considered doing because I think that came from like a weird pornographic image, and it was a really weird image of a guy totally naked, really greasy, sweaty guy in a leather waistcoat in quite like confident pose, but like it made it seem like a really weird, grotesque image. So I made it like more macabre, gave him that evil grin and stuff, and changed the colors so he seemed all grotesque. And I was going to do loads of images of loads of weird people from those kind of like magazines, but all distorted and monstrous. Again, a bit like what Pigman would have painted. What would these creatures look like? Because often, because that's the real thing with Pigman's model. Why it kind of works as a short story. Lovecraft's terrible for like describing things as being indescribable and then describing them in like loads of detail. And Pigman's model, I know there've been short films have been made of it, but I don't know whether it would work as a film because as soon as you see those images, they're never going to be as haunting, as you know, as they need to be. The idea that people just faint when they see them, of course, but then you get an artist to paint them, and it's never going to be quite as, as upsetting as it needed to be. Or just they just did like your classic Lovecrafty monsters, like fish-faced creatures and stuff, and it's never that terrifying. Whereas I felt that this more close to human sort of distortions was kind of scarier. I felt there was this film made in the 90s that I loved called In the Mouth of Madness, a John Carpenter movie. Don't know if you've seen that one. That had a lot of distorted faced cop, police officer in it, and that kind of like that image kind of stuck with me. But I was doing like these grinning faced creatures. It's I think quite a lot. It was like around the only relevant old thing that I could find was an old sketchbook. Where I did sketches in an old English language book. I don't know why. I think I wanted it to look a little bit like the beginning of that movie Seven, where there's all that kind of scratchy, weird kind of scrawling and scribbling and stuff. Um, and like for instance, on this page, this is from the same era, so this would be 2001. This guy probably looks like he's becoming that character that you can just about see a rictus grin and two eyes. So I found that one, but probably the most. I also found this was probably an earlier version of him as well. Can you sort of make out that kind of smiling face there with the
Yeah.
eyes? That was an
Yeah.
earlier version, but probably the one that was done right before as like a as a concept. This is probably the closest. He's wearing what appear to be sunglasses or glasses in this version, but this is you can see his expression and his waistcoat that he's wearing and his evil grin. So that was probably, and there's a few different studies of what his face might look like, as well as some other random monstrous stuff that I was doing. But that predates, I think, the painting. So that's like an early study of it. I might do a print of that. Yeah, there's loads and loads of pages of this stuff that I did weird sketches of weird monstrous kind of things, weird stuff from porn magazines that I made monstrous. The idea of the kind of stuff that you probably couldn't put in a horror film that I thought it would need to be that gross for it to be as upsetting as Pickman's model makes it out to be. There's other weird like some sort of weird operation going on there, and this weird creature with a tentacle. I don't know what I was thinking or doing back then. But anyway, that was the most relevant stuff that I could find. That was me in my studio when I painted it. So that's that there I am, a young, very young me. Those paintings were done from foundation the year before. I've not been able to find a photograph, um, any original photograph of that of 106 yet. I've got a few old hard drives that I've still not gotten into yet. That so maybe I might find, but I think it would have been taken analog, I suppose, an analog photograph of the painting that would have been scanned in, I suppose. I don't know. One of the most interesting things for me was people found out like metadata from the camera that it was taken on, or something like that. Some sort of Samsung, which I didn't like recognize at all. It might even have been a university camera that they lent, because I had a SLR camera, not even a DSLR, like an old-fashioned SLR camera, but I don't remember having a digital camera at that
Uh,
time.
Samsung 250
At Samsung
digital.
250, maybe that could have been literally a higher one at the university or something like that, and no memory of it. That's another really the idea that I had that camera at one point, completely forgot about it because it was 20 odd years ago. Is it 20 years ago now? What is it? 2002? Yeah, like more than that, 23, 24 years ago
Mhm.
when I made
So
that
the
paint.
camera was released in 2005, so it had to have been. So we
2005 when
had
it
a
was released.
right.
So I
Yeah,
must have taken a photograph of it after uni then.
or I could
I
have
don't know
been
how
wrong. That was my find.
I could, yeah, maybe, but it's way weird because I would have given it to Ed at that stage because we would have left uni. We left uni summer of 2004. Um, yeah, it's a weird one. It's a total, still a mystery as to the providence of the actual image. I know that I took, this is how old school it was. Oh, it felt old school even then though, but we had slides, mate, because when you're an artist back then, you have a set of slides made to send off to galleries and stuff. That was
Okay.
how they did it back then. And yeah, yeah, we had slides made, and um, maybe from it came from a slide potentially. I don't know. I'll have to have a look into that as well. So certainly, there's still a little bit of checking out I need to do. But at the end of the day, the fact that we've got the actual painting is the main thing, I think, rather than that painting. I mean, it's just amazing that that still exists, knowing what I'm like and how little of that stuff survived. That the one painting that I did that people really liked has survived, albeit not with me. But that's
There was about 20 of us in a group chat freaking out when your friend posted the photo from a different
yeah,
perspective.
yeah.
It was yeah, that was a bit exciting for us.
That was on a Discord, was it? I'm not. I don't know
Yeah,
go on Discord. Can I? Shall I get onto that Discord? Is it something that you, or would you rather just
if you
keep it as a
want.
separate thing from me?
If you want, can't make.
You're more than welcome.
Yeah, you're more than welcome.
I'm happy to. You send me some. I don't know how to use Discord. I think I've had it in the past. I know. I did get. I did download a Discord. Let me see if you just invited me. Is that right? Or was that a coincidence?
Um, do you wanna maybe email him the invite link?
Yeah, I'll send him the link. I
Yeah.
will
Leo,
say
let me.
there's a chance people may message you just a lot saying like, "Oh, this is so, just to talk
No,
to
that's
you."
right. That's
Yeah.
all right. That's all right. I mean, I don't, most of the time I'm doing art for film producers and stuff like this, so they're normally like not effusive of praise. They're the opposite. They're like, this isn't right. Or this, I need to change this. So, you know, I'm always happy to have a little bit of people saying, "Oh, I like your work." But yeah, I'll work out how to get back on. I can't remember what my Discord
No,
login
all
is.
good.
I'll work that out later, and then I'll so I don't want to take up your time with me trying to work out old man
No, all good.
trying to
I,
work
I
out
just
his
wanted to
story.
say, I just
Sorry?
wanted to say, like, just be aware that you're a celebrity in there, right? Like,
Yeah.
people will, be weird.
Yeah, that's all right. That's all right.
That's going
People have been
much.
very nice by and large. I think people
Cheers.
have been very nice. A few people are like, look, mate, can you just upload the real picture right now? They're quite like uh but apart from that, but even that was still nice and they're still showing interest. So it's not like I mean, I'm not like uh, you know, a big celebrity or someone that has to deal with like anything real, any like real issues with fans. So just this tiny little bit of interest is fine. Yeah, no, it's all good. Um, but yeah, what was that answer? Oh, I forgot what that was an answer to the question of. But anyway, another question? Any other questions?
Uh, that kind of
Well, that was one of my
leads into
questions.
another one I was going to ask, but
Oh
if
yeah.
it's up to you, Arfe, if you want to ask one first.
No, no, you go. I was just gonna ask if he owned that camera back in the day, which
It's kind of
I guess he didn't.
Don't think I did. Don't think I did.
uh,
Sure I didn't.
well, from what you've said, it leads into this. Now that you've heard of SCP as a
Mm.
thing, suppose what a lot of people want to hear is, have you read the original story? And if so, what is your thoughts on that image now being that character?
I have not read the original story. What I've read it or what I've listened to largely because I've been busy with work recently and I've got a toddler that's taken up a lot of my time. I've
Of
been
course.
watching YouTube rundowns and things like that, but I must admit I haven't gone back to the original Dr. Gears story yet. Apologies to Dr. Gears for that. But I will do so. But I've gone, I've watched animations that have gone through variations on the stories of where he's kept, how they have to keep him in lead, how he can move through walls, things like that. Making him into how to describe it, kind of like almost like a traditional kind of slasher monster in some ways that's going in and out of the walls. I think back in those days, I would have had a more high-minded, fine art kind of elevated horror in concept of what this thing was. It was way more sexually obvious before it got cropped. That adds a whole weird other texture element that is obviously not, as far as I'm aware, in the SCP thing of this old man. The fact that he's an old man as well is very different. He's creepy old men characters rather than dirty old men. Where he looks more like a dirty old man in my version that's gone freakishly wrong. A little bit like some of the ghosts you see in The Shining, in the movie The Shining. I don't know if I'm assuming you've seen The Shining.
Yeah.
There's scenes where she's running around at the end and she's seeing like loads of weird specters of old men like giving fellatio to bears, men in bears, really weird stuff. I kind of had that kind of idea in my mind. None of that translates through to the SCP um sort of like you know um mythology, I suppose. But then I created this whole super fun, spooky mythology of its own, that is equally valid and like what people have grown up with, in a lot of cases, which is kind of a weird thing for me to think of, if you know. I mean, the idea that someone would, in inverted commas, grow up with anything that I've done. I suppose in a way, I've been working in the film industry just about long enough now that some people might have grown up with a TV show or a film that I did some work for, but it's not quite the same thing because I'm not the filmmaker. I'm just doing concepts and creature design for something, and smaller things as well back in the early days. So that no, this is a very very different, and I do love the weird direction it's taking is taking him. Does Dr. Gears still write stories? Is he still around? Is he?
I believe he's
Yeah,
had
I'm sure.
some big health problems recently that's kind of
Yeah.
prevented him from doing stuff,
Oh,
but he is still around. He still talks to a lot of the original SCP wiki people, such as Dr. Man, who emailed you. I believe they're still in touch.
oh, okay. Great, great, cool. Well, hopefully he'll find out that the original artist has
Oh,
you know,
he already knows. He's very excited. He's apparently he's very happy to that this has happened. That I think he wants to meet you. To be honest, obviously that's
he's welcome to have a, depending on what his health situation is, how well he is, he's welcome to get in touch, with me if he would like to, depending on his situation. He's totally
yeah.
I don't know where he's based, but we could have like a video chat like this or something if he would like to. I don't know where most of the fans of are they all over the world SCP fans? I don't know if it's a international thing. It's
Big
I
in
think
Russia.
so. Yeah.
I know it's big in Russia.
big in
Yeah.
Russia. Yes,
Yeah.
yes, I heard that. I heard it was big in Russia. Yeah, interesting. You never know where these things come get big. Um,
That was actually one of the theories about the 106 image was that it's a Russian dead body that was found and
yes.
this is a CIA image.
No, I heard about that about the dead body image. No, I didn't hear that it was specifically one in or from Russia, but I did hear the dead body theory. I mean, for me, like a lot of people have pointed out, you can see that there's unfinished paintwork on his arm, where I literally just stopped painting him. I just like didn't bother to finish the painting, because I was still trying out ideas at that stage. And you can sort of see that all of it adds to it in my mind. I'm very happy with where it got to and what it became and stuff. There was just enough weirdness and randomness to how it was made, what it was painted on, to make it work in the context of SCP. So it's kind of yeah, it's cool how it worked out. I
Thanks.
forget the question was again. I always do.
Oh, you answered it anyway. It's okay.
Okay, good. So
Arfi, very, is there anything you want to ask?
Yeah, I guess we're sort of coming towards the end of scheduled time with you. But
well, don't worry if it goes over a bit. It's fine.
yeah,
If
yeah,
you've got a
sweet.
couple more questions, it's fine. I won't knock you off exactly at well 12 o'clock my time, but just ask the questions that you've got.
No, all good. This is the last real one I was curious about anyway. Um, so obviously we've already talked about how you've gifted it to a friend.
Hmm.
In what context is a image that disturbing? Like a gift for someone?
Well,
That
I
may have
can't
come
remember.
off better than
I'd
that's a
have
gift.
to ask Ed, because Ed's got a better memory of it, I think, than me, because I literally, and this is very unsurprising if you know me, I cannot remember giving it to him. Uh,
Yeah,
that's the
right.
thing. If I say on that Instagram, I'm like, it's lost to the sands of time, mate, will never be seen again. And Ed's like, oh no, you gave it to me. And I was like, oh right, I gave it to you today. But like, um, yeah, he really liked it. I mean, I think, lots of people are into macabre art, not necessarily, don't people always put that kind of stuff up on their wall, and he's not really been able to show it because it's more graphic than he is in the cropped version. He's got a young daughter as well, so he's not putting up on his wall as it is anytime soon. But yeah, it's he was an artist. He was doing very different type of art to me, much more conceptual sculpture stuff that he was into. Um, but I feel me and him were really good friends, and particularly then we haven't like fallen out or anything. He's just moved up to Liverpool, so we're still in very good terms, and I'm hoping to catch up with him again soon, using this excuse of seeing this painting again. So it'd be nice to see him after quite a long time. I've not seen him since I've not seen it. I've never met his daughter, and she's like 4 or something now. I don't know how old she is, but So yeah, the content, it just wouldn't. I mean, I think I would have been as always. I'm always happy when someone shows like that they like my work, in any way. So I'd have been very pleased to have let him be a custodian of it when it happens. People I think who knew me, like they knew the sort of work I was into, and that was clearly one of the ones that was working better as well. It kind of did just sort of click quite nicely. The image, how I painted it, where I painted on all this sort of thing, just kind of worked together nicely. And I think Ed's, you know, he's an interesting person, and he's got good, he's he's a very creative person. He's set up his own art foundations himself and stuff, and so he's got a good eye. And I'm glad that he saw something in one of my paintings. So yeah, no, I was just very happy to hear that to remember that he'd done it. Because of course I just forgot. Just always moving on to the next thing. Moving to London. Start off my art career. I would have been super laser focused on moving to London. That's a whole new sort of like adventure and stuff. And that would have been an old painting that I did, and I wouldn't have given it probably that much of a second thought. But yeah, I was bad for doing that at the time. But yeah, that was
That's
roundabout the answer to my question. I'm sure he would have been happy, and I definitely would have been happy to have that he showed interest. If that makes sense.
I've got
Sweet.
about two more questions that
Right,
kind
go
of
ahead.
leads
Go ahead.
into that's um sorry, I'm just uh getting them up here. Uh so me and Arvi both agree that the image itself it's really striking in a way. And I've noticed from any time I personally have showed anyone in my friends or whatever the image, even people that are a bit more predisposed to horror elements, they kind of just say whoa. There's something kind of there's something inherently freaky about it in a way that's just kind of creepy and weird and just makes you wonder what that could be.
Yeah.
Uh, did
It's
did
like
you feel
creepy,
like
but
this
not
whenever
in
you
like
painted it?
a way.
Oh, sorry. Uh,
Oh, I was just gonna say it's creepy, but not in like a way that other traditional paintings that try to be
yeah,
creepy are creepy. Like it, it's a bit of an anomaly in that way.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
it's like I think it's not that over the top in a strange kind of a way. It's not like 14 heads and tentacles and and all that kind of thing. There's not. It's so close to being human that it falls into. I think if it's working well, I think it's working well because it falls into the world of the uncanny, which is a word that gets thrown around, you know, an awful lot, and the definition of it kind of changes. Someone did a really good definition of it in a book called Mark Fisher, The Weird and the. I think it. No, I think he described Mark Fisher wrote a book called The Weird and the Eerie. Um, it's a good book just about the concept of the weird and the eerie and taking it about um the unhomely, the slightly the off or something like that. I think he described it something as like something obviously it's strange within the familiar, something that shouldn't exist that does exist, or an absence of something that should be there. Something along those lines. It was a. I have to try and remember what the specific definition of it was. So I kind of feel like there's he's staring at you, but he's staring at you with a weird type of I don't know, almost like gross confidence and stuff,
Mm.
and he's a lot of these horror characters that are very successful, I think, in films and stuff, they're often macabrely having the best time, in the worst possible circumstances. They are like, at home and happy and gleeful in whatever like weird world that they're living in. And that's kind of, I think, what comes through in that character. Sometimes it's easy to overdo, I think, a horror character and or a monster and stuff. And the more they go away from the human, um, the less scary they get, weirdly. Like I've done stuff for a kid show recently
Right.
called Girl Troop versus Aliens, which is like tentacles and stuff and big bug eyes. It's not scary, and that's when you become a professional like artist, it's about recognizing the tone that you want to go for the show that you're working on, and whether it's Doctor Who or whether it's um, a horror movie like Return to Silent Hill that I worked on recently, or The Toxic Avenger with Peter Dinklage. That's got a completely different kind of tone from Trauma, to serious hard sci-fi like Foundation or the Silo TV series on Apple TV that I worked on, just to name drop a few things that I've worked on. They've all got their own tone, and that's a specific tone that I was going for with this character was not for him to have when it's just a painting, yet they don't have like this is how he kills you, or this is how it does this to you or that to you. They just sort of like they just like exist mysteriously. And you know, that can be a kind of a power in itself, if you know what I mean. But the more you put like big sharp teeth or claws or tentacles on something, it becomes a monster in a rubber monster movie, and it becomes less interesting, I think. Does that kind of
I
Uh,
agree.
explain it?
Agree.
no, yeah, that
Yeah, it's
I
just
think you've
close
hit the
to
nail on the
human.
head.
Some of the books uncanny.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the uncanny, it's the eerie. Oh yeah, here it is. Eerie is caused by a failure of presence or absence. Where there should be something, there is nothing, and when there is nothing, there should be something. That was his description of the eerie, which I always thought was very interesting. But anyway, that's just
Yeah.
something I just happened to find here on the internet.
Um,
So, second
suppose.
question they was leading into, you were saying?
Well, I suppose yeah. Have you ever, maybe not exactly the same, but have you ever had a similar experience of any of your other art turning up somewhere unexpected like this before?
I don't. I don't think so. I don't think I've ever had anything because this is quite a specific um,
Yeah.
situation. It's quite a yeah, no, it's quite a weird one. Um, Not really. I did a piece of except I mean, this image 106 has shown up in my own work again by accidents. I've realized. Like, let me just can I share this screen at the moment? Let me see if I can share. Oh, can you turn on share screening? Whoever is the
Yeah.
administrator.
Uh,
Give me a second to work that out. I'm
No
assuming it's under
worries.
settings.
Yeah, or it's under
Relevant.
share. If you go to the share icon at the bottom, there's like a
Oh
little
yeah.
triangle.
Uh,
Share settings.
Sharing options. All. It says all participants.
Oh yeah, now I can do it. Now I can do it.
Uh,
Well done. Um, so this is a painting. This is a fake painting that I did. This is a piece of a digital painting that I pretended was a real
right.
painting. I sort of gave it the quality of a painting, but it's a digital painting in reality. It's not real. But this guy on the left is basically the same guy again. He's got the waistcoat. He's got the grinning face. He's got the weird eyes. I only
Same
added
slot.
this female character to him. So this character came up again. I did That's another image that I kind of did that it's kind of monstrous in a similar way. This is the obviously the original. This image was a piece of fan art for a manga called Urotsuki Doji that I made. And a group in Germany that released the animations got in contact with me and they wanted that to be on the Blu-ray that they're releasing, and they would have shown that to the original creator. So that was sort of a bit similar sort of a situation of an old painting I did got interest later on. This character I did for a film project I was trying to work out is kind of similar to him. Not really the same. He's got no nose, but that big grin and the sort of color scheme is kind of similar. Um, so the character itself has shown up in a few places, but I've certainly never had, any interest, quite in the same way to something that I've done um, on my own back. Maybe some of the things that I've done for film and TV shows, maybe they are popping up places, of course, because I don't have any sort of control over that. Um, but um, but yeah, so certainly nothing like this. This is pretty
Yeah,
unusual, even for yeah, even for me.
fair. I suppose to close it off with a couple of things just before
Sure.
we're finished. You're from the UK,
Yeah.
I believe, yeah. Do you have any advice for any young people trying to get into the creative industry from countries with less opportunities? Because the UK and Ireland, which I'm from, aren't particularly large for films things. There's not a lot of
What, UK?
opportunity. Yeah,
Oh no, I'd say UK is very good.
you
UK is
say?
good. Yeah, yeah,
Maybe
no,
it's just
I mean,
Northern Ireland where I'm from that just has very little.
yeah, I mean, maybe Northern Ireland stuff gets filmed in Northern Ireland. Game of Thrones got filmed in Northern Ireland. I know makeup artists in the Northern Ireland that worked on Game of Thrones for a good few years while the original series was on. But a lot of films get and TV shows get made in the UK, at least at the moment. I know there's been a whole thing with Trump and tariffs and wanting to bring. In fact, they were having trouble with not enough work being made in Hollywood. That was a big problem. People were leaving LA and they weren't filming in LA due to the costs. But there's been a film infrastructure within the UK for since forever. The film school that I went to at Beaconsfield it used to be a film studios, but there's giant film studios in the UK. Pinewood, of course, famous for James Bond, Star Wars, Leavesden, where the Harry Potters got made, and Warner Brother projects, you know, DC stuff gets made there. Marvel stuff has been made in the UK. Netflix are opening up, and Apple opening up new studios in the UK. So there's loads of opportunity. I'd say actually you'd be in a really good position being in the UK um, relative to like other countries in Europe. Um, I would say, there's definitely. I don't think you have to go to the US or anything. You can stay but being near London helps. So I'd say that.
Yeah,
Uh, Being around, when I say the UK, I kind of really mean London and around London. Um, Although all the studios are on the outskirts of London because they take up so much space, so they're not most of them aren't really in the centre. Three Mills, I suppose, is more in the centre, but that's a smaller film studio. So so yeah, there's good film colleges, there's good art courses and stuff teaching, modern techniques. My CEO who runs the company I work for, Millennium Effects, he has a prosthetic makeup effects MA course at Falmouth University uh, that teaches the cutting edge digital and practical effects that come into makeup effects. So that's a great opportunity. There's loads of other makeup effects company courses on BA level in the UK, in London, at Bournemouth, probably as Falmouth as well, but the London College of Fashion, I think, has a makeup effects thing attached to it as well. That's very good. And there's just obviously loads of traditional art and filmmaking and production design and stage theatre craft courses in the UK. So yeah, I'd actually say if you're interested, it's a good place to be in, especially in or around London. Again, another very long
I've,
answer to that question.
I've quite a few artist friends that'll be happy to hear someone that's positive about the industry here, as It's very
No,
doom and
yeah.
gloom a lot of the time.
Well, I mean, there's all sorts of things going on. It can get quiet and stuff. There's, people worrying about AI, and then there's, America tariffs, all this kind of thing, that kind of causes, you know, negativity and stuff. And obviously, came in the industry a long time ago. So sometimes it's, you're listening to someone that came in at a certain time. But these courses, I know they do still exist, and, you know, jobs are, you know, shows are still happening and stuff. Obviously we've got the new Harry Potter show, which is bringing in loads of work if you're not like against it because of J.K. Rowling's anti-trans stance. And what else is going on? There's been Marvel. I think the new Avengers film might have been done in the UK as well. Various Game of Thrones spin-offs, Stranger Things. Make a lot of stuff was done in the UK. Even things that you'd think of quintessentially American. Like I know people that worked on the main villain Vecna and stuff. For Barry Gower. Just outside London. So yeah, there's plenty of makeup, which is what I know. That's the world that I know about. I know about makeup effects. That's the kind of world that I'm kind of in. Or have been in for a good while. So yeah, there's stuff
I
going
can,
on.
I guess before we'll let you go after this, as I'm sure you're busy. But
The only thing
as
is
this,
that a lady that's doing some work for us, she might be going soon. So I might, if she calls, I might have to run off, but then I'll come back if you've not quite finished. But
oh no,
that,
this is the last.
oh, okay.
So that's is there anything you'd like to promote or share? I know you have like a short film coming
Yeah,
up according to your website.
I've got my website, www.christophergoodman.com, which I try